All right, we're on to the first question of page 2, which is question 354. It says the tides are a periodic rise and fall of ocean water. So if you want to take a look at that, we have the height of the water. It will eventually reach a bottommost point. It will reach a bottommost point and then come back up and reach a topmost point, or some sort of it'll have some sort of a periodic curve, so it'll constantly be doing something like this. It'll either go to the top and then back to the bottom. It'll just keep repeating this. So this occurs over a period of time. That time is usually determined by the distance of the moon to the Earth. That's what offsets it. But that's more of a science thing. Let's read this question more carefully. It says, on a typical day at a seaport, to predict the time of the next high tide, so high tide I'm going to assume is the maximum, what is the most important value to have? Well, I think the answer is choice 1, but before we answer the question, let's look as to why. The time between the consecutive low tides. So if I knew how long it took to reach the 2 low tides, I can somewhat write an equation for that and use that to figure out when high tide would be. It would be between them. So if I were to try and answer this question some other way, so it says when the tide height is 20 feet, I don't know where that is. That could be anywhere. It can be in the middle, it can be at the bottom, it can be anywhere. So I don't know how this would be useful. If I knew what the average depth of the water was at 24-hour period, so in a whole day, the average would be at our midline. So the midline doesn't help us figure out when high tide is. It just tells us what the middle is. And then the last one, so that's 2 that don't make sense. Number 4, the difference between the water heights at low and high tide. Well, if I knew what the low and high tides were, so let's say the high tide was 20 and the low tide was 10, I would only know that that's a difference of 10, but it doesn't help me figure out where to find those times. Like, I don't know when this was 20 or when this was 10. I just know that they were 20 and 10. So the only one that lets me move left and right would be the time between low tides.